George Floyd death, violence erupts on sixth day of protests. Tens of thousands of people protested across the United States and in major world cities for a sixth night as outrage over police brutality intensified over the death of George Floyd. Floyd, 46, an unarmed black man, died last Monday after a white Minneapolis police officer knelt on his neck as he pleaded "I can't breathe," sparking outrage that has swept across a politically and racially divided nation. Curfews have been imposed in nearly 40 cities, but people have largely ignored them, leading to tense standoffs. Riot police clashed with protesters in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles, firing tear gas and pepper bullets to try to disperse the crowds. Police vehicles were set on fire and shops were looted in several cities. The National Guard, the U.S. Reserve military force for domestic emergencies, said on Sunday that 5,000 of its personnel had been activated in 15 states and Washington, D.C., where crowds once again gathered near the White House, this time lighting fires and throwing stones at riot officers. State and local law enforcement agencies remain responsible for security, the National Guard added. Police in Washington, D.C. have fired tear gas at demonstrators who set fire to properties near the White House. They include a historic church, St. John's Episcopal Church, known as the Church of the Presidents, near the White House. It has emerged that in Friday night's unrest, President Donald Trump was briefly taken by the Secret Service into an underground bunker at the White House, for his safety. The U.S. is witnessing the most widespread racial turbulence and civil unrest since the violent backlash to the assassination of Martin Luther King in 1968, says the BBC's Nick Bryant. More than 75 cities have seen protests, with streets only days ago deserted because of coronavirus, thronged with demonstrators marching shoulder to shoulder. The Floyd case has reignited anger over police killings of Black Americans. For many, the outrage also reflects years of frustration over socioeconomic inequality and segregation, not least in Minneapolis itself, where George Floyd died. There were many instances of police vehicles being vandalized and set alight on Sunday. Riot officers continued to respond with tear gas and flash grenades. In Philadelphia, local TV stations showed people smashing police cars and looting at least one store. Mr. Trump tweeted, "Law and order in Philadelphia, now. They are looting stores. Call in our great National Guard." Looting was also reported in Santa Monica, California. At least 4,400 people have been arrested over several days of protests, according to a tally compiled by the Associated Press news agency. Arrests have been made over a range of offenses, from looting and blocking motorways to breaking curfew. In Minneapolis, a lorry driver was arrested after reportedly breaching a road barrier before speeding towards a crowd of protesters marching along a major motorway. He has now been charged with assault, CNN reports. In St. Paul, state troopers surrounded the state capitol building. About 170 stores in the city have been looted, its mayor said. In response to the protests, Target Corp announced it was temporarily closing 100 stores, about 30 of them in Minnesota. The administration of President Donald Trump, who has called protesters thugs, will not federalize and take control of the National Guard for now, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said. The National Guard said on Sunday that 5,000 soldiers and airmen had been activated in 15 states and Washington, D.C., but that state and local law enforcement agencies remain responsible for security. A presidential move to federalize National Guard troops is rare, occurring about 12 times since the mid-1900s, mostly during the civil rights era of the 1960s, according to the National Guard press office. It was not invoked in protests following the deaths of other black men in recent years in Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore.